So we all have different goals, different types of businesses, different things. But here's the thing, whether someone invites you to a live event or to show up on a virtual stage or to just get on the phone with them or whatever that is, whether that just means you're so afraid to do your first Facebook Live or whatever that looks like, until you take that next step, no matter how big or small, it doesn't matter. You don't even know who might hear that message and reach out to you. You don't even know the learning that's going to take place internally, adding to your internal toolbox that's going to help you reframe and reshape your mind. You don't even know the confidence in the learning that's going to give you an idea about what maybe your next step should be. You don't even know who you're going to be introduced to. So there's so many different things that you don't even know unless you show up, which is why one of the other important keys to all of this is consistent persistence.
Are you confident? Do you have consistency? How much conviction do you have? I'm Daniel Gomez, the Confidence Architect, a business strategist, keynote speaker, executive coach, and best-selling author. On the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, we will help you unlock confidence to create consistency and develop conviction. Together, we will discover the key that unlocks your confidence. Welcome back to another episode of the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show. It's a great day. I'm grateful to be alive, and what day to have a grateful person in front of me right now. I'm looking at the one and only Miss Lori McNeil. How are you doing today, Lori?
I am awesome. I am so good and so happy to be here with you, Daniel. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Man, it's hard to believe it's been a year that we've met, over a year actually, and it's been an awesome friendship to have that's developed. And I just love just the fact when I met you, you just had this radiant of positive energy, and like you were real, you were genuine, you were smiling. I was like, well, who is this? Who's that Lori over there? Because of course, in your media marketing, that's what you specialize in, but you like pink is your color, and I love it, right? And I guess because my wife is a breast cancer survivor, so whenever I see pink, I'm like, boom, it gets my attention. So man, I got to say, I've been grateful to have you as a friend. And you're going to speak at our women's conference. Before we get into all this, I'd like my guests to introduce themselves. So tell the world, who is Lori McNeil? Who is this amazing, just wonderful woman? Who is she?
Oh, man. It has been an amazing journey, an amazing friendship since we met, Daniel. It's just been so exciting. So thank you so much for having me. Lori McNeil, that is a big question, right? Because who each of us are just has so much to unpack in the world. So I am an international business coach and media strategist, and I literally travel the world helping businesses step into the greater sense of legacy for the purpose in the world and building out what they're building. It's not just about the paycheck, but what truly gets you out of bed in the morning and drives you every single day to continue showing up, even on the days when you might not feel your best or 100%, but what does that actual legacy level mean? And then in that process, I help more entrepreneurs actually learn to voice more of their legacy messages in order to reach that higher level using media and national level media. So I have been doing what I do, what I love to do, for over 20 years. I am a retired business professor, and I've taught at all different grade levels and been an entrepreneur my entire life throughout that journey as well. So I have an amazing background that I bring to the table every single day, and I get to help rock stars completely level up and have greater impacts on the world.
Wow. So see, I wouldn't go finish my college education before this podcast because I wanted to make sure I was up to your intellectual, up to your intellect. So no, but that's awesome. So, you said something that kind of caught my attention is entrepreneurs. I see you, like you walk the walk and you talk the talk, because I see a lot of people post things that they don't really live out. And what you post, you live out. Mm-hmm. You're active, you do what you do. And I love that about you because you're real. So what's one of the biggest mistakes that you have seen that entrepreneurs that are maybe a year or newer in just whatever business they may be in, what's the biggest mistake they make when it comes to media?
When it comes to media? With media specifically, it's not understanding the right frame of mind that you have to have in even understanding how the world of media works. So for instance, everybody wants the flashy logos to put on their social media and their website. And what I help entrepreneurs understand is that, yes, those are important for the social proof and for the positioning, but those are really, truly the cherry on top. There's a whole bunch of strategy and pieces that have to go into more or less laying that strong foundation that really give you that stronger credibility to even use those logos. So unfortunately, there's a lot of people more or less buying the logos in a variety of ways, but you want to be authentic and you want to be real and you want to be solid in everything that you do. So I always encourage entrepreneurs to do the work, put in the work, because it's actually going to get you to where you want to go much, much faster. It's not just about the logos. It's about what you actually are creating in that process and how you're actually learning and growing in that process and being aligned with the right media outlets that will then be aligned with your right target audience to impact the people that are magnetically attracted to you. So there's a lot of different mindset issues around media that a lot of people don't really understand. They just want to fast track everything. And so they're trying to get those logos as fast as they can and maybe go about it in all kinds of crazy ways because they think that that's going to be the thing that really gets them a lot of credibility. And although they're flashy, they get people's attention, there's so much more behind those that you need to actually build that strong, solid foundation for your business. And I teach people how to do that through a very specific 5-star strategy process that I've developed in working with entrepreneurs for the last couple of decades. It's a solid process that actually gets solid results, but then builds that foundation as they go in a way that they never even thought of before. So that's what's really, really exciting, is helping them understand like what's actually needed, and that the logos are the cool cherry on top. It's not actually what you do to get to where you think it's going to get you.
Awesome. Well, this is why I love to tell the audience, hey, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to get the pen and paper out, because I always say you got to put the pen and paper, because Lori's about to drop some wisdom and some bombs that are going to help you to elevate your business, regardless if it's a brick and mortar or if you're out there on the web, wherever you may be. She's going to give us some wisdom now. So, Lori, saying what you just said, you said the word foundation, and I agree with you, because foundation is everything. I think too many people, they try to build a 3-story house on a small foundation, and of course it's going to crumble because it can't sustain the weight and the success of it. So what's the one thing that you think that we should focus on when build? I know you won't tell us the 5-star, but what's one thing we need to focus on in building that foundation?
In building this foundation with your media strategy and with your business, it actually might be a little different than what you think. So most of us have heard of a business plan in some shape or form, whether that's through formal education or just in knowing that we have to have some kind of a business plan in place to start a business. And some of us may have heard of media exposure, maybe some media strategies, even if you don't know that much about media. But what people don't understand is how to fit those together. So there's a lot of misunderstandings around, okay, I need a business plan. I need some kind of a media strategy plan so that I'm not just throwing spaghetti at the wall as I have extra time and money doing all kinds of random things. But to have those two strategies actually fit nicely together to support each other to build that stronger foundation. It's not just about having these two separate strategy plans that you remember developing at some point and you get away from maybe the specific strategies that you once started your business with, but really truly living, breathing documents that are the true essence of who you are and how you show up in the world. They're not just documents that you put on a really cool, Google Drive or PDF and you kind of get them out. And if anybody asks for them, then you send them a copy, kind of a thing, right? I think of this as far as brick and mortar, like these are our policies and procedures that sit in a nice little notebook on the shelf. It's not about that. It's about the true integrity and essence of who you are and how you're building your business and the foundation of what that looks like in the living, breathing strategies that lead you to actionable steps every single day. So it's not just about that one interview that you have coming up in a week. It's not just about, oh, I've got this feature and this feature. No, it's about the daily actions that you have to take to make sure that your business plan and your media strategy plan are completely supporting each other as one cohesive plan.
Yeah, and I agree with that, right? I think sometimes we think about business plan because that's what we hear the banks say. But unfortunately, the banks a lot of times don't know, the banker doesn't know about marketing themselves. They don't know about media themselves. And half the time when you go to some of these banks, I call them the gray hairs, right? Or the silver hairs, where they don't even know how to use social media, a lot of them, unfortunately. But it's the reality of it, right? Because business is innovative, it's changing. So what did you learn about Lori McNeil when you started your journey as an entrepreneur? Because I know it wasn't easy. I see you're very successful and you're great at what you do. But I know that when you started off, it wasn't what we see today. What did you learn about yourself, and what was the hardest lesson you learned in becoming an entrepreneur?
There's been, of course, just many different aspects to my journey. But I think one of the toughest things that I learned that took me quite a few years as I continued down my journey was this whole concept of not accepting the labels that other people put on me. Because I didn't realize, even from a very young girl, I didn't realize how much that was actually affecting my mindset, that was affecting my actions and my perspective, thus my decisions, and how I was even viewed, like the ripple effect of how all those pieces even fit together, even from the time I was very young. Because I used to, starting in first grade, I actually made barrettes for a Christmas bazaar and started down my entrepreneurial journey when I was in first grade.
First grade?
First grade. But what's really crazy about that is that even though I was young and I had all these different childhood businesses, they really helped me to learn and understand very important foundational skills for business as I would continue on. So I didn't know. I was just having fun. I just wanted to make a little bit of, Christmas money when I first started out. But now looking back, I can then, of course, dissect like the major learning opportunities that took place with how to talk to people face to face, ask them about the colors of the barrettes, the sizes of the barrettes, the styles, how to price, how long it took me to make each one. I mean, all of those very, very important aspects when it comes to customer service, product, all those different things that even in first grade, they were beginning to shape my mind and my creative juices as an entrepreneur very, very young. So then when I was 11, I actually had my first bank presentation and took out my first loan for $3,500 to buy equipment for a hot dog stand. So I didn't have a clue what I was doing. And that's back in the days of typewriters. We didn't even really have computers. And so my mom helped me type out a one-page document and typed out exactly, at 11, what I thought that it should say, what I wanted to tell the bankers. And I remember getting off school an hour early, put on my best dress and coat, and walked into a room full of bankers that I'd never met in my life and began to speak from my heart about what it was that I was trying to do. And at that time at 11, of course, it's all about, fun and clothes and, spending money and that kind of stuff. So $3,500 seemed like a ton of money in my mind, especially growing up in poverty the way that I did. And so I was taking a huge, huge step. I was doing something what seems to a lot of people to be very, very crazy, not only because of my background, but because of my age. And I don't know if I caught them on a good day or if they just like to support young entrepreneurship, but they granted me the $3,500.
Wow.
I was excited and scared because it seemed like so much money. And so I hustled and I figured it out and I bought my products and I bought my equipment and I found myself. And this is where my journey of an entrepreneur and what I learned and what I learned in media really start to mix. So I found myself in a new community as a brand new young entrepreneur trying to navigate a whole bunch of stuff at one time. I found myself really caught in the middle of a political controversy because I didn't know all of the different licenses and permits and stuff that I really needed in that community. I was kind of trying to learn that as I opened up and started my business. And I found myself being attacked by a group of people because I was operating on a public sidewalk with land that I didn't own, but I didn't really understand that. I didn't know all that. Well,
you were 11 years old. How are you going to know?
I was 11 years old. So talk about getting like in the trenches of a whole bunch of stuff that I did not understand all at one time. But it was such a foundational learning opportunity for me to really navigate entrepreneurship and this new business and product pricing and paying back the loan and all that kind of stuff. But with media, I began to get a ton of media exposure because I had the local radio and the local newspaper come to me to find out who I was, where I was from, what I was doing, and what was causing such a stir in such a small community. Because then what happened was people would hear my sound bites on the radio, they would read about me in the newspaper, and they would come from all over to meet me, to support me, to buy hot dogs, chips, and a drink for $2. And It was through leveraging that media and building those relationships and begin to really understand some key foundational tools for success that I understood the power of media, the power of relationships, and the power and the reach that your message can have to attract people to support you, to be in line with you, even though I've never maybe had contact with them in my entire life.
Yeah. So you're telling us, I love what you're saying, but I want to, because there were some challenges along the way. And right now.
There was. And that was a big one.
I want you to talk about a challenge that you had, because you were taking action, you were doing it, and I get it, right? But obviously it wasn't that easy. You're making it sound like it was easy.
No, it wasn't.
So what did you learn? Like, what's one of the biggest lessons you've learned through that? Because there was probably a point, because I don't care what type of entrepreneur business you are, there's a point where you want to give up. You ask yourself this question: is it worth it? Mm-hmm. And at that point, that's a tipping point, I call it, right? Either you continue doing it or you stop. Mm-hmm. Talk about that time when, whether it's you were 11 or when it was, but talk about a moment where you lost your confidence and you were like, man, I don't know if this is worth what I'm doing. Actually,
the biggest tipping point happened before I retired. It actually happened before I retired. So it's not in the business that I'm doing now, but it absolutely had a key factor in what got me to where I am now. So that true tipping point that I talked about, the label, and I faced that challenge with the label at different points, that I continued to face in different ways. I faced it as I was a senior in high school, and I was actually getting ready to graduate. And because of the labels that I had worn for so many years about not being good enough, not being intelligent enough, not being capable enough, because of the severe poverty that I came from and the challenges that I've had to face my whole life because of that up to a certain point. The challenge that I faced was that the high school counselor that I absolutely loved, adored, trusted, told me in a very sincere heart-to-heart that she didn't think that I was college material. And I remember being in her office thinking, oh my goodness, like, am I just thinking too much of myself? Is the capability that I think that I have really not real? Am I really not cut out to do much in the world? Do I really not have the skills that I feel that I'm capable of and that I have? But it was a really, really tough time. It was a really tough thing for me to hear from somebody that I trusted. And the tipping point for me was deciding whether or not I was going to graduate from high school and whether or not I even cared at that point to even go on. And then it came with the decision that, do I even want to pursue college? Do I want to just work at the local grocery store? Like, what is it that Lori McNeil wants to do with her life? And what is the meaning of life? And what does it mean for me to even be a part of trying when I've faced so many different challenges my entire life to get to what should be a great year in my life? And I'm faced with somebody in my life that's telling me, like, it's not even worth, trying. Just get a job and don't even go to college and whatever. So I had to go through wrestle with a lot of internal stuff based on a lot of labels that were put on me that were causing these limiting beliefs that I very easily could have given up, because nobody in my family had ever gone to college. They'd always worked really, really hard, and impacted people, but not necessarily in the way that I wanted to in my soul to impact people. But I was really wrestling with what was true and what was real and what wasn't real. And I had a lot of people not expect me to graduate from high school. A lot of people telling me the same thing, that I wasn't cut out to really do much and that I wasn't really cut out to go to college and all those things. And so that became a huge pivotal point for me, because it was a major deciding factor. And I decided that even though my grades weren't very good, even though I had these labels, that there was something in me that was curious enough that I was just going to see what that looked like. I just wanted to go. whether I hated it, whether I got kicked out, whether my grades weren't good enough, whatever. I just wanted to find out for myself and just give myself that opportunity to just see what that was all about.
I want to interject something interesting here because what you're saying is so crucial. So many counselors in our education system, I love them. Teachers are great people. One of my family members is a principal, and I understand like that. All they're teaching is what they've been taught. And it was interesting because I just had an interview with Forbes Riley, and it was amazing. We were talking about this, and I think it fits in perfect with what you're saying. Is they actually like got after her daughter, right? They got after her daughter, Michaela, and they're like, "What's going on?" They're like, "Yeah, she doesn't want to do the assignment." Well, this is the assignment. Check it out. The assignment was that every student had to learn how to write a resume. So Forbes Riley's an entrepreneur like me, you, all of us, right? So what do you think? She sees her mom. Her mom's her role model. Her mom never writes a resume because my mom owns her own business.
Right.
So out of respect, her daughter said, "Hey, like, I don't need to learn how to write a resume." What offended the teacher, said they sent her to the counselor, and they're like, "Well, how are you going to work?" She goes, "Well, I have my own business." And it's amazing that like just the programming that some of these people have, not so much the people, but the education system that needs to be fixed because they think like you need to sit in class for 45 minutes and then you switch classes and then you stand in line and then you got to learn how to write a resume and you have to go to college to be successful. And that's the conditioning that we have. Like myself, it's like I don't agree with it, but I thought what you're saying is interesting because when Forbes was sharing me what her daughter went through, it's like she got in trouble because she didn't want to write a resume. But she doesn't believe in resumes because she's already an entrepreneur. It's like, why you want me to learn something that's not going to add value to me?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
And I think every day we run into people that they don't see from the perspective of the person they're speaking to. And all they want to do is drill their point of view. And in that aspect, they're shooting down people like yourself and saying, "Hey, you're not good enough. You're not going to do this." No, because that's their perspective. Think about this. You do amazing. But think about how, who was it? It was Albert Einstein that was sent home, didn't even graduate, right? Thomas Edison didn't even graduate high school. And look at their geniuses. But just because Beethoven wasn't an academic genius, he was a musical genius. So I truly believe that we all have that genius inside of us. And your genius wasn't so much in A, B, and C. It was in like, hey, I can get you out there. I'm an entrepreneur. I know what I'm doing. But people don't. The biggest problem, I think, is this, and I'll let you continue, is we always want to speak our language instead of learning to speak Lori McNeil's language to learn what she has to say, to learn what's in her heart. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it was such a pivotal point for me that I had faced, and I didn't have a lot of mentors growing up, to be honest. I didn't have a ton of people supporting me and helping me through this. It was just navigating it, the challenges of all of these labels and all this conditioning and all of this idea of what's real in my head versus, and really believing in myself, that I faced it in all kinds of different ways as I grew up. And it was that fire in me, that curiosity, that creativeness that I just thought they could be right, but I'm just going to see for myself. Like, I just want to experience that for myself and just find out, and then I'll know, versus always wonder. Yes. And so the interesting part of that story then is that I got accepted on probation, went ahead to get 2 master's degrees and teach at the collegiate level and develop out business programs for colleges and universities all over the country that are being used today. And it was also through that conditioning that you just talked about that I learned the actual amazing things that entrepreneurs and businesses needed to know and learn that weren't being taught in the classroom. So it's how to help them break out of that, the confines of certain curriculum, and how they actually can accomplish bigger things in the world and not just work for that paycheck. So it was in all these different ways growing up that I faced the challenge of these labels and how that really truly was affecting my thinking and the value in myself and how I was even showing up in the world. So had I not broken past that and dealt with the tough stuff, I maybe wouldn't have graduated from high school. I maybe wouldn't have even attempted college. I wouldn't have done the amazing journey that makes Lori McNeil who I am, that gets me to the place that I am today on a global level. So it really, truly, for me, was the challenge of the label and the value.
So let me ask you this. From the point of graduation, so think about this. This is a beautiful story. I love it. I never knew this about you. You're told by your counselor, don't bother, right? Going to college. You get 2 master's degrees. So what did Lori do in between, right? I call it the mess in the middle. What did Lori do in the middle to build her self-confidence, to build her confidence? Because I truly believe that right now, there's many people that have lost their confidence. So what did you do to gain your confidence and speak to that person right now that's listening on iTunes or Spotify or iHeart that really just needs to say, man, like if Lori was told, she was labeled that, hey, don't even bother applying. And dude, 2 master's degrees, come on. So what did you do to gain your confidence in those years, Lori?
Well, I have to tell you that because I said I didn't have a lot of support, like growing up so what happened was when I had that faith over fear and I took my chance to even see if a college would accept me and I got in, that actually opened up a whole new world of people and of resources. And I physically got out of the environment that I was in and put myself, so I already had a win, right? Because I already had a college accept me. So in my mind, I was like, oh, wow, okay, here's somebody that sees that I have something to offer because they accepted me into the college. So that was a huge, huge boost for me to even get accepted in. And then had to navigate a ton of challenges that went with that first year. But then I surrounded myself with very different people. The college then had very different opportunities. So my point there is that sometimes you have to have that faith over fear. Sometimes you literally have to break ties with the environment, with certain people, with certain things, and not keep doing that same thing, expecting that different result. So for me, it was literally like an opportunity to almost start over as I was reshaping my thinking and gaining my confidence and stepping into all kinds of new opportunities and things like that of course come, with college experience anyway. And that's when I actually began teaching internationally, was actually in college. But with every win, it was actually a huge, huge confidence builder and a huge, huge win for me because I was rewriting my story. I was reframing my thinking around my limiting beliefs because the labels had such a strong impact on me on how I even was capable. So here's one of the reasons why my house counselor told me that. These labels were so strong in me that I literally, because I didn't think that I was capable, I literally didn't even try. I had one of the lowest GPAs in my graduating class because I didn't even think I was capable. So I didn't even try in school. So here's what happened. I put myself in a different environment, surrounded myself with different people, continued to have, different opportunities and gain that confidence over and over. And I actually graduated college with a high GPA with honors, then graduating honors in 2 master's programs after that. Because I then began to have more self-confidence and see the potential of what was possible and what I was capable of the whole time.
Maybe not 1 master's degrees, but 2 master's degrees.
But my GPA in high school was so low because I honestly just didn't even think that I was even capable. So I didn't even try. So people literally viewed me as someone that wasn't intelligent and wasn't capable. But really, truly, I was. I just didn't think that I was. There was this huge shift that happened when I started to believe in myself and just take that next step and go through really, really tough journey in order to get to the place where I had to reframe my thinking to where I even thought that I was capable or worthy enough to even be in the same room, with some of these people that I thought were like, way more intelligent than I was in all of my classes, and just dig deep into what that really even looked like. So it was a tough journey.
You said something that caught my attention. I want to go a little bit deeper, but I hope you're taking notes right now. Listening audience, she dropped 2 words of wisdom, 2 golden nuggets right there. For many of us, it's hard to cut those ties that don't serve us. Mm-hmm. And what Lori said is 110% correct. You have to cut those ties. And it's not that you're better than certain people. It's just the fact that Lori would have never, just think about it, in her high school, in her old relationships, they told her that maybe she wasn't good enough. And all of a sudden she cut ties with people that weren't serving her anymore. And all of a sudden she's in this different environment where there's people that say, hey, you are good enough. You can make it. So right now, write that down for Miss Lori McNeil, word of wisdom: cut the ties that no longer serve you. Cut those old ties that don't serve you and build new ties. And the second word of wisdom she just said was this: you have to change your environment. You can't succeed in an environment that's not going to support the future that you want. And again, that goes back to cutting old ties, but it also goes back to, okay, what environment do I need to put myself in? You got to surround yourself with people. And I remember, Lori, when I told the world I was going to become a speaker, it's like everybody made fun of me. They're like, you know how many Hispanic speakers there are? I'm like, no, exactly. But that was because nobody that I spoke to was in the speaking realm. And all of a sudden, I met some speakers and they're like, oh, dude, cool, badass, you're doing amazing. I'm like, wow, really? And they give you that reassurance. So when I changed my environment, you're 100% correct. So thank you for sharing that. So let me ask you this. I want to go deeper in one of those words of wisdom you just shared with us. Why do you think it's hard for the people to cut ties? And what do you say to that person that really, really has that dream in their heart, but maybe they're not moving forward because they're tied to somebody, whether it's their mom, their dad, their boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever it may be, that's not supporting them. And instead of lifting them up, they're bringing them down. But they know if they were to cut that tie, they would succeed. What do you say to that person right now? Why don't they want to cut ties?
For most people, it's one of two things. It's that fear of that failure or that rejection if they were to make the wrong decision, right? If they were to cut that tie and make that wrong decision. But the other part of that is that it's what's comfortable. Even if it's negative, even if they hate it, even if it's toxic, even if it's an unhealthy, unhealthy boundary, unhealthy relationships, it still is familiar. They still, even though they don't know what to expect, they expect that whatever it is that they're experiencing is still going to be the same. So there's still that level of expectation, that level of known of whatever it is from that person or from that relationship. So it's being stuck in the feeling comfortable in that, because that is what they know, even if they hate it. So this is what I say to that person: you can't grow when you're comfortable. You have to get outside of your comfort zone if you want to grow. It's absolutely not possible. And the piece that goes along with that is that I talk to people all the time who say, but I'm so afraid, right? The other thing, I'm so afraid of making the wrong decision. And I say to that person every time, it's not possible for you to even see, know, or understand all of your options until you have that faith over fear and take that next step, because you don't know who you're going to meet. You don't know the opportunities that are going to arise. You don't know how your perspective is going to change in that learning opportunity, that growth opportunity that comes. So it's not even possible. So those people that get stuck in the paralysis by analysis because they're just waiting to make the right decision, they're literally not just stuck, they're actually moving backwards, whether they realize it or not. And they're so stuck in being comfortable, even if the comfort is fear, even if the comfort is toxic, they're somewhat comfortable in that because they're not motivated enough to understand their own value in just having that faith over fear that it takes to just understand what the next level of options even are. So it's not even possible to know, see, or understand all of your options. And that's why you've got to take just that next step, and then other things surface. And you take that next step and other things surface. And that's how you navigate the journey. Are you going to have failures? Absolutely. Some of the most amazing people in our history, past, present, are absolutely full of failures and challenges in their background. You can't be successful without learning some challenging, stuff along the way. Nothing is easy. And if anybody says that it is, they're lying. Like, it's just not possible. You have to go through your own stuff. So is it going to be hard? Yeah. Are you going to have failures? Yeah. But that's how you learn about what works and not works. I always think of it in terms of a GPS. A lot of us have a GPS on our car or a phone or whatnot. And if you take a wrong turn, or you end up, maybe your GPS isn't quite updated and you end up down a curve. Well, you still know where you're going. You're still going to get to where you're going, but your journey and your path might be totally different than the other person in the other car that's going to meet you there, right? Maybe they went left and then went right and went a different route in a different street, but you ended up in the same spot. So what's interesting is it's not possible to make enough wrong turns because you are showing up in the world that only you can. And your destiny is what you are designed for. You will end up in the place that you are supposed to end up. You can't make enough wrong turns in order to mess up enough to not lead you there. You're going to anyway.
I love your passion, man. I wish I could see you. And you just like, man, she's like, boom, 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 boom. I feel like I'm a boxer. She's hitting me all over the place. I'm like, I can make it. I can win. She inspired, man. You're inspiring me today, Lori. Thank you. Woo! I love what you said. Talk about what you just said. I think what you just said is so crucial, and you said it so powerful, and I think somebody in our audience needs to hear this. You said as you take that step, you see the next step. You take the next step. Like everything's not visible all at one time. Talk about that, because that really spoke to my heart right now. Talk on that, because we expect to see like everything we need to do in one step, and it doesn't work that way. So talk about that, please, if you don't mind.
Right, absolutely. So we all have different goals, different types of businesses, different things. But here's the thing, whether someone invites you to a live event or to show up on a virtual stage or to just get on the phone with them or whatever that is, whether that just means you're so afraid to do your first Facebook Live or whatever that looks like, until you take that next step, no matter how big or small, it doesn't matter. You don't even know who might hear that message and reach out to you. You don't even know the learning that's going to take place internally, adding to your internal toolbox that's going to help you reframe and reshape your mind. You don't even know the confidence in the learning that's going to give you an idea about what maybe your next step should be. You don't even know who you're going to be introduced to. So there's so many different things that you don't even know unless you show up, which is why one of the other important keys to all of this is consistent persistence. Napoleon Hill talks about this, and this is, I think, where we met a little over a year ago when I spoke on the Think and Grow Rich World Legacy Tour. I talked about persistence. To be consistently persistent is also key in that. Don't get caught up in, I tried it once. Oh yeah, I tried that last year. Oh, no. You are consistently persistent in who you are and what you want to accomplish in the world, even if you don't have all the answers, even if you don't have your blueprint, and your next steps, it doesn't matter. You show up and you figure that out and you navigate that as you go. And that may be frustrating, but here's what I've also learned in my years as a business professor and as a coach is that you can't grow while you're comfortable, right? So that means there's going to be a little bit of chaos. There's going to be a little bit of a storm. There's going to be a little bit of turbulence. And that's a good thing. A lot of people run from that because they think, this might not be the right direction. I'm facing too much resistance. This might not be the right thing. No, that's probably in most cases exactly what you should be doing because you're growing. You're actually pushing your own, norms, you're reframing your thinking. You're getting outside of your comfort zone and you're pushing past something that's different. It feels uncomfortable to you, but you're growing in so many ways, both consciously and subconsciously, that you have to push through in order to really fully understand the learning that comes out of that and the opportunities that come out of that. So you have to take that next step because it's absolutely not possible for the gold to come out unless you do.
Man, and you know what came to mind? It's like, think about this. Like, we're on my podcast, and when I met you, there was no podcast. But if I would have never accepted the invitation to go to Dallas, A, I would have never met you. B, you wouldn't be speaking at our women's conference come here in October. And C, we wouldn't be here doing this interview. But it's all because we showed up. Right. You showed up. I showed up. And look what unfolded. But if you don't show up, you're missing out on half the blessings. Mm-hmm. And half the success is just showing up. If you show up, it's what it is. You've been a ball of fire. That I want to say I've enjoyed just seeing your passion. I'm seeing that you're not the same Lori I saw in person speak on Think and Grow Rich. Let me tell you, there's another second gear or something inside of you. I don't know if you ate your Wheaties this morning or what, but man, you're on fire this morning. I love to end towards the end of the interview with this is because I believe we're all unique. and we all matter. And that's why in our Facebook group, Distinctive Syndicate, that's one of the things is distinctive, right? You're unique. We all bring something unique and special because we're created by God, and we all have that one gift. What makes Lori McNeil distinctive? What's distinctive about Lori?
Well, I absolutely agree with you that we all have a story. We all have a journey. We all have different challenges that we face that make us completely unique in a way that no one else can mimic, no one else can replicate. And the thing that makes me unique is not my story in poverty, not necessarily my story with the labels, huge part of who I am and what made me who I am, but it's the unique combination of that story, of that journey, mixed with the solid foundation as a business professor. That's another tool to my toolbox, mixed with the media expertise, mixed with the fact that I'm an author and a speaker and all these different things and these different combinations, because the combination that I have that makes me uniquely qualified to do what I do is very different than anyone else. And one of the reasons is not just the skill level, it's the combination of my story, because no one else can live my story, right? So it's how I show up in the world and use that. It's how I mix who I am in my journey and my story with the skills that I've learned along the way, both formally and informally. So there's a lot of business coaches out there. Not all of them are media experts. There's a lot of people that specialize in PR. Not all of them are rock solid in business strategy. So that's something that makes me very unique in my business. But then how I use that and how I show up and how I use my internal toolbox in order to impact the world externally is unique to me, right? So just like I may have, I want to be this amazing speaker, or I want to be this amazing coach, or I want this tool and this. I can add those tools to my toolbox and then use those in a unique way that's to me, but nobody else can be me. I can't be anyone else and no one else can be me, because even if you have some of the same skills, you are not going to be the same person as you're coaching someone. You're not going to be the same person as you're presenting the same information on stage. I don't care if it's a memorized speech and two different people present the exact same words. The impact that they have on that room will be vastly different. And you were created to be uniquely you. And the people that are going to be magnetically attracted to you are absolutely unique to you, right? So even if the room is divided, you're saying the exact same things. Half the room might be magnetically attracted to one speaker. Half the room might be magnetically attracted to another speaker, even though the same words were spoken. It's because everything within you absolutely comes out externally in a way that no one else can replicate.
I love that. Man, you know what else you're unique about? You're distinctive. You're an amazing mom. I got to say that every time I talk to you, you always talk about your son. And then I was on Facebook and I saw your post of it's like, you're unique because you have a beautiful heart, Lori. And I want you to know that. And I think that's what attracts me as a friend to you, is that you always speak from your heart. And I think I spoke to you like 3 times on the phone in reference to just kind of stuff that we're collaborating on. And you always talk about your son. And it's like, it's beautiful because I know so many people that they don't talk about their children in a genuine way. And you do. And I just want to say I admire you for that.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. That really means a lot to me. There's definitely a story when it comes to that. I was very, very sick. And actually, it was very challenging having my son. And both of us, to be perfectly honest, were life flighted and almost didn't make it. So I feel very blessed to not only that both of us are alive and happy and healthy, but I feel very, very blessed to be his mom. So his name is Corbin, and it means gift dedicated to God. And it's very special to me that I have been blessed with such an amazing gift as my son and the opportunity to be a mom. And that's a blessing that I don't take lightly. I absolutely build into my deeper why. And one of the reasons why I coach on this such importance of maintaining that healthy balance in your life. You know, if you're spending too much time in your business, you're doing it wrong. if you're trying to get your business off the ground and it's not making money because you're not focused on it and you're too like you've got to have that balance and you've got to stay in integrity with who you are and who you are meant to be in the world. And my son is a huge, huge part of my business. In fact, he actually likes to look at my schedule and help hold me accountable.
Hey, Mom, you got a podcast. Hurry up.
Yep, exactly. He's amazing.
So tell our audience, where can we find the amazing Lori McNeil? How do we get in hold of you? Where do we find you? Talk to us. Where is she at? Like Facebook, Instagram, website?
Yeah. Well, of course, as you know, I'm everywhere. Like you can find me just about everywhere. But the easiest place to go is just lorimcneil.com. And you can connect with me on all the social media sites from one place so that you don't feel like you have to find me individually on all of them. So if you go to lorimcneil.com, you can connect with me everywhere. And you can also learn a little bit more about me and take a look at my blog as well while you're there.
Awesome. Well, you know what? It was such an honor to have you here on the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, and so much wisdom. I think my biggest takeaway from you is just, we have to be reminded sometimes it's like out of sight, out of mind, or we don't hear it after a while. But sometimes you got to cut those ties. And I think so many times it's so hard to cut those ties. Even as you're growing, I think in business, you have those relationships that get you to a certain level, and then you meet new people and they take you to another level. So that was my biggest takeaway from this episode. So thank you for being a guest. And that hearing audience right now, thank you so much for tuning in today. And if this really spoke to you, please go to our Facebook group, Distinctive Syndicate, and we would love to receive you and have you join our community there. We have a lot of special trainings that we do there, podcasts that we do there, live shows that we do there. Plus, you get words of encouragement from everybody that contributes from the community. So just go to Facebook, look up Distinctive Syndicate, and we'd love to have you join our community there. Well, that's a wrap for this week's show. The amazing Lori McNeil was on fire today, and she inspired me. So I know I'm going to definitely have an amazing, amazing evening, because her fire, her passion, I felt it through the screen. I felt it through her voice, and I felt it in my heart because she spoke from her heart today. So everyone, that's a wrap. We'll see you next week here on the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show. This is Daniel Gomez, and thank you so much for tuning into our show today. We'd love your feedback. Please drop us a comment, and thank you for leaving us a review. Don't forget to subscribe to our show and share this episode with a friend. And my free gift for listening to our show today is a copy of my best-selling book, You Were Born to Fly. To get your free copy, go to DanielGomezInspires.com and get your copy today. That's DanielGomezInspires.com. And to elevate your life and business even more, follow me on social media at Daniel Gomez Inspires on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Together, we will discover the key that unlocks your confidence.